to tonight's extraordinary Cabinet meeting. Welcome. Do we have any apologies for absence this evening?
Yes, we've got Councillor Hunter sent her apologies, and Dawn McNally from HUK has been replaced by Kerry Parker for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other apologies? No? Thank you. Moving on to item 2. If any members have any declarations of interest or notification of dispensations granted, can you please make them known? Yes, John.
Yes, I have a number of dispensations which I have received an email telling me I have a dispensation as detailed.
Thank you. Peter?
In relation to item 4, Trustee of North Tyneside Carer Centre, which has contracts with the council.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would like to declare a non-registrable personal interest in item 4. My sister is director and employee of Justice Prince Community Interest Company, an organisation that contracts with North Tyneside Council. Yes, Jim.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if it's relevant, but I do from time to time have very small contracts with the music services, Music Hub, North Tyneside Music Hub, through the council. I gather, so just wanted to make that known.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, no one else? No. Can we move on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of January 2026. Can we agree those minutes as a true record? Agreed, thank you. And agenda item 4, which is the 2026 to 2030 financial planning and budget process. Can I ask Councillor McMullen to introduce this item? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Following on from the initial budget proposals report at Cabinet in November, I am pleased to present today our updated budget proposals for 2026-27 for consideration by Cabinet next month. Before I summarise the key points of this report, I would like to invite Councillor Montague to present some of the key recommendations from the Budget Study Group, which were agreed by the Overview and Scrutiny and Coordination and Finance Committee at its meeting on the 14th of January. The group has once again carried out a detailed and constructive work on behalf of the committee, and their recommendations have played an important role in shaping the updated proposals before Cabinet today. I will now hand over to Councillor Montague.
Thanks, Councillor McMullen. Thanks, Cabinet, for having me. As Chair of the Budget Study Group, I'm pleased to briefly outline the work that we've carried out over the recent months. The cross-party group met regularly with officers, reviewed the initial proposals in detail and produced 19 recommendations in total. These covered a wide range of issues, including joining up neighbourhood services more effectively, particularly across environment, highways and street scene, setting further stretch targets in non-statutory areas of children's services, and reviewing corporate facilities such as catering to ensure they operate on a more sustainable basis. We highlighted the need to revisit the food waste rollout following the loss of the Expected New Burdens grant, and we stressed the importance of strengthening reserves while avoiding their use unless absolutely necessary. Finally, we noted the recent dividend from the airport and recommended the Cabinet seek greater clarity on how this can help to further benefit the residents of North Tyneside in future years. I'd like to thank Cabinet and all the officers for their constructive engagement throughout the process.
Thank you, Councillor Montague. And thank you to the Budget Study Group for the depth of your work. Many of your recommendations are reflected directly in the updated proposals before Cabinet today. Chair, today we present a balanced budget for 2026-27, but it is a budget that requires discipline, difficult decisions and a continued focus on efficiency. Like councils across the country, we are facing a rising demand for our services, particularly in children's and adult social care, alongside continued inflationary pressures and increased contract costs. The multi-year funding settlement gives us more certainty, but does not give us any more money. In fact, because of several historic grants have been rolled into the settlement and removed, our position is worse than expected. The budget gap has moved from 2.9 million in November to 3.8 million following the settlement. To close this, we've identified additional savings and efficiencies across the organisation, which include further stretch targets to the non-statutory children's services, additional efficiencies in adult services, and a phased approach to the food waste rollout after the government failed to provide the expected new burdens funding. Catering services will move to a break-even model, and registrars will increase their fees and work to grow the number of weddings taking place in the borough. We have received a one-off rebate from Nexus, and we have made modest adjustments to the planned replenishment of the reserves this year. All of this builds on the work already underway through our medium-term financial plan projects and the direct budget reviews, which have challenged every line of income and expenditure and identified further opportunities to work more efficiently, redesign services and reduce duplication. We are proposing a 4.99% council tax increase. This is in line with government assumptions, and we know this is difficult for residents and not a decision we take lightly. But without this, we could not protect essential services or maintain financial stability. Our revised council tax support scheme will continue to protect thousands of low-income families and households, with around 75% of eligible working age claimants paying no council tax next year. Despite the pressures, we remain ambitious for North Tyneside, and this budget continues to deliver the priorities of our North Tyneside Plan 2025 to 2029. I'll now hand over to Councillor Harrison to outline the housing revenue account.
Thank you, Councillor McMullen. Our housing revenue account planning is driven by the same council priorities as the general fund. The HRA will set out a balanced budget and 4-year medium-term financial plan, supported by our updated 30 years business plan, which continues to provide a stable long-term framework for managing and investing in our homes. As with most local authority registered providers, we follow the government's National Social Housing Rent Policy. This uses the September CPI rate plus 1% CPI. CPI in September 25 was 3.8, so rents will rise by 4.8 in 26/27. This is reflected in our plans, and we are awaiting further government announcements on rent convergence, which may give us some flexibility when setting individual rents. In recent years, the HRA has enabled us to maintain homes to the Decent Home Standard, invest millions in the improvements and continuing delivering new affordable homes across the borough. Throughout this period, we have supported tenants through difficult financial times, providing safe, healthy homes in communities where people want to live. The HRA continues to face significant pressures. New national regulations have introduced stricter safety and quality standards around electrical compliance, damp and mould without additional funding. Inflation and shortages of skilled labour have pushed up repair costs. We are providing more support to tenants during the cost of living crisis, and the cost of developing new homes continues to rise. In response and following Cabinet's initial proposals, we have developed plans to fund additional stock improvements identified through our ongoing surveys and fire assessments. This includes accelerating roof replacements, carrying out further electrical repairs, and investing in additional fire doors and loft compartmentation. These works will be funded through borrowing, which remains affordable within the long-term business plan. Despite these challenges, we have prepared a balanced 30-year HRA business plan. Over the life of our plan, it provides around 2.2 billion of revenue spending to manage and maintain our stock, and 1.6 billion of capital investment. This ensures we can continue meeting the Mayor and Cabinet key prior objectives, maintaining and improving existing homes, delivering our affordable housing ambitions, and supporting tenants when they need us. Can I now hand back to Councillor McMullen?
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. This budget is honest about the challenges we face, but it is also clear about the ambition for North Tyneside. We've listened to residents, to the budget study group, and to our partners, and we will have taken difficult decisions but responsible ones. We've done so with a focus on protecting our essential services, supporting the most vulnerable, and keeping the authority on a secure financial footing. I ask the Cabinet to approve the updated proposals as set out in this report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McMullen, Councillor Harrison and Councillor Montague for that. Do we have any comments or questions in relation to this item? Yes, Roger first and then Vicky.
I'm sorry if you haven't got an answer for this, but do we still carry a debt to Capita for early termination of contract?
So within how the Capita deal came to the end of, we're not holding a debt on that. We've worked with them to essentially had a bunch of transformation projects that we've then had to accelerate ourselves, which they didn't deliver. So over many years, they were meant to deliver a bunch of plans. They never did. So they left us with a burden when they came back. So we've had to do a bunch of work to underpin that and get us on a more financial footing. But it wasn't essentially a check saying we owed them several millions. They came to a gracious end at that point. So there's not a mass black line on the books, for a better term.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to comment on the recommendation by the scrutiny panel that the funding of the VCSA organisations is reduced by 10%. Voluntary sector organisations across the borough play a key part and a key role in supporting the delivery of the council's plan, in particular to the most vulnerable in our communities, which is mentioned as a key priority throughout the paper. By our very nature, the VCSE don't make profit from any of our funding that we receive. The amount that we receive pays for the staff resource to deliver on that contract and a very small budget to deliver the ask. In many cases, VCSE organisations are delivering at a loss at the minute. We don't receive the correct level of funding to resource the delivery adequately and so therefore end up being out of pocket while delivering local authority contracts. In addition, the sector has been hit hard very recently with the government's increase to national insurance. And again, this wasn't reflected in any of the contract remuneration for many of our funders. Organisations have had to find that money from elsewhere to cover that increase themselves. We are seeing VCSE organisations struggling to the point of closure on a monthly basis across our borough. And that's due to lack of funding and lack of funding opportunities. So a reduction by even 1%, never mind the 10% that's been put forward as a recommendation, to an already financially vulnerable sector is a real risk, not just for the sector, but also I think for the local authority delivery that we provide as well. If VCSA organisations continue to see the cuts in funding when we are already running underfunded, this will only result in more closures and the voluntary sector will unfortunately disappear.
Thank you for those comments, Vicky. I'd just like to say I do totally appreciate the contribution of the voluntary sector in North Tyneside, having spent many years working in that sector. And I know how challenging that is on a day-to-day basis. And you're right, you do play an incredibly important role in supporting the council to deliver on our agenda and on our priorities. And you are, as a sector, a very important element of that and our partnership working. So I would just like to acknowledge that. But as you've heard in the presentation there, and you can see in the report, we have had, I do welcome the multi-year settlement from government. It does give us more certainty for the first time. It makes a big difference in supporting forward planning, but unfortunately it hasn't brought additional resources in a way we had hoped it might. And we are still facing increasing demands on some of our key services, particularly children's services and adult social care. So we've still got huge budgetary pressures and hence it's called for some very difficult decisions to be made. And we are still in a challenging position and we want to ensure we deliver the best for our residents. But I totally take on board the points that you make, Vicky. Thank you. Carl, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to speak on some of the recommendations, I think, the Budget Study Group was a cross-party group. There was representatives from Labour Party, Conservative Party and Reform on there. Obviously passed through over in scrutiny as well, which was cross-party. And I think while most of the recommendations are helpful, there is a couple that you'll not be surprised that I don't think are particularly helpful. I think in particular the one on looking at our ownership of the airport, I don't think is helpful at all. The airport has returned to us 3 times more than what the Conservatives tried to sell it for just a number of years ago in recent years. But it's also much more than just a financial asset. The airport is crucial to this region's tourist economy and business economy and provides for so much more. Of course, the private sector partner in the airport is exploring its options at the moment, so it'd be really unhelpful for us to explore our options with the public sector part of the airport. But it's not just an asset you can sell for unlimited money. You would have to sell it to the other authorities. And as the Mayor just said, councils all over the country are struggling financially at the moment. I don't think any of the authorities will be in a position to buy our shares, even if we wish to sell them, which I don't think is rich. I don't think particularly that recommendation is helpful. I think the one on the strategic reserve also is not particularly helpful. We need to ensure we have strong financial resilience when we are getting less money than we hoped for from the government. Reducing the reserves now without taking tough decisions, I don't think is the right thing to do. Keeping a strong reserve to be there for the rainy day when we really need it is the right thing to do. So I don't think that one. But also on the recommendation Vicky just mentioned as well, our community environment sector are really, really important partners for us. I don't think reducing the 10% is there at all. It's not something we plan to do. So while they've recommended, I don't think it's something we are planning to do. What we do have to do is work with our community environment sector to make sure that the contracts that we do have are delivering and there is deliverables in place. So while I don't think 10% reduction is something we should look at, we should absolutely look at how we can continue to go for strength to strength for our community environment sector. I know we've been having chats with Vicky Nixon, our team, about what we can do to support the sector, and we'll continue to try and support it whatever way we can.
Thank you for that, Councillor Johnston. Any other comments or questions in relation to this item? No, can I just say a huge thank you to the Budget Study Group and to Overview and Scrutiny, to Councillor McMullen and to all of the officers for their support around this area of work and around our budgets. Can I ask if Cabinet agree the proposals, the recommendations, on section 1.2 of this report? Great, thank you. Agenda item 5 is the date and time of the next meeting, which will be Monday, the 16th of February. Yes, so I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, everybody.